today we're going to go a little bit further to identify the impacts of migration on sector policies and vice versa. We're going to explore the concept of mainstreaming/integrating migration into policy planning, the evolution of this concept and the implications that this concept, that the process carries. And then we're always going to bear in mind that at all times we're going to analyze what's the role of the civil society in all this process at different levels, right? We're going to go through the international level, to the national level, to the local level. And as usual, we're going to follow a three-phase path. So the first, in the first part of the day, we're going to focus on the concept, as we do usually. Second part of the day, we're going to do mainstreaming migration in practice, like what does that actually mean? And then in the third part of the day, we're going to focus in the Swiss context, which is where we are working. So let's start with the concept. The process of integrating migration into policy planning. Why is it important to consider migration as a parameter when you're planning, when you're developing policies? I think as civil society members, perhaps we're not always involved in the process of policy formulation, but I wish that you could think now why it is important to take migration into consideration into these processes. And I think we're going to start with this discussion just to see as one of the objectives announced, what are the impacts of migration on different sector policies and the impacts of the goals of those sector policies on migration. Migration decisions, migration conditions, and migration consequences. So do you remember we watched this video about Ghanaian agriculture, Ghanaian tomatoes, and so on? I think this, I'm going to show it again, just to refresh our memory, and then we're going to have this. If we're saying, maybe if you are the minister of whatever, call it innovation, you can perhaps try to set up a policy where you bring expertise and you try to build expertise within the country so that people do not want to go to other countries to look for available technology. Demography, of course, population is one of the policies that every country has, and migration directly affects population. Human resource planning, again, if you're the Ministry of Labor, you would like to know where are the gaps, what are the, where you would like to analyze your labor market to know which are the vacancies that are open, which are the needs of the labor market, so that you can fill in the needs. You can also, as the Ministry of Health, try to again reinforce the capacities of your people and perhaps try to give better working conditions to the doctors, so that they are tempted to work in their own country. And that's a difficulty that many countries have. Maybe many doctors prefer to work either in the private sector because they are better paid than in the public sector, or they prefer to concentrate in urban areas where they have more facilities and perhaps opportunities for career development, instead of going to the rural areas where they don't have facilities and so on. So I think these are just a few sectors where we can always argue that there is an impact, be it direct or indirect, between migration and these sectors. Now, what can we say about, in this case, in the case of Ghana, what can we say about the coherence or the incoherence of the policies of migration?
I know it is mentioned in several objectives, so maybe in 10, 11, but it's as a cross-cutting development parameter. So what does this mean, right? So the
again, this is a tricky question. It's a tricky question because, as Peter is saying, it depends. how you want to interpret, I mean, what you mean by this. So, yes, the Sustainable Development Goals, they recognize migration as a driver of development. And migration has been included in specific goals, right? Like the goal related to decent work or the goal related to reducing inequalities. However, when we go to the second part of the question as a cross-cutting development parameter, there I think we have to nuance the discussion, because yes, it has been recognized that migration is, you know, a cross-cutting issue. However, when we go more into detail, into the specific indicators of the goals that have been adopted, it is more difficult to see migration explicitly.
Clandestine smugglers. To give an example, I was watching a documentary on Al Jazeera 3 days ago, and 3 individuals made $126 million from smuggling people across 3 different countries to Europe. This is the case. 126 million.
Just run, go.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, they have the card, they cut the passport, they give you a false passport, and for me, it's not just the money they have made, but it's about the lives of the people they have endangered.
Yeah, who paid that money, right?
Yeah, and
exactly
people are fleeing. They are ready to do everything either to secure their lives or when they know there's a brighter future somewhere, they are ready to pay anything to get that future. And this is what we should be able to pressurize government to see, to be able to preserve life first before the physical gains.
Yes.
And this we don't see any government, be it in Europe or in the third world, playing to it.
I think one are ready to pay $5,000 to come from Turkey to Europe, to Western Europe, and others pay $50 on an EasyJet flight. Right?
Because it comes on EasyJet flight.
It's all about status. Right?
It comes about, it's very clear. So the policies, they will sign the policies, but as both internal or external. But then, what development are we talking about? Who gains at the end of it? Do they see the gains, the future gains, not the immediate gains?
So again, you put the finger at the, in a core. Again, we're talking about immediate gains and the philosophy of profit and the immediate gain. And the idea of human development that is based on completely different principles, right? There was another comment here and here.
I agree with him, because when we are talking about development, what is it really we are talking about? What is it we want to develop? Is it the human or just the government policy? Do you understand? Because like he was saying, most of the people that paid those exorbitant amounts to make this trip to these developed countries do not even get to the destination. Do you get it? So the people are really the people that are the ones losing. The government just has this policy, but in effect, it's not actually practical for those who are supposed to gain from it.
So policies are not responding to...
Not really.
To the needs.
Not really.
Yes, there was another comment there.
I have another view on this. For me, development is actually the consequence of, it's like a term. The multinational companies working around the globe, they need some free space. And there are many countries that they are living in belief the multinational companies are the mainstream in terms of development. And then we have to ensure for these companies actually absolute freedom to move capital to this country, but at the same time they know exactly they want to optimize profit. They cannot do this without to move the people. But they want to move one special part of people. We call this migration. At the same time, some other, they are learning effect. Low skill, so-called low skill profile people, in this, who are paying $5,000 instead of 50 for EasyJet, they want to also be part of this profit, and they want to move to some areas. And this is for me maybe the concept. This development, it means these multinational companies, they must have this freedom to go from one country to another one. In China, for example, we have millions of people moving from one part of the country to another one. We don't call this migration because people is moving in one country. But as soon as we have moving over the border, then we call it this migration. Like in Switzerland, we have now, in Syria especially, I don't know, 100,000 expats, very skilled, high skilled, they call this like this, expats, and very interesting. Slowly they are building his own structures within the society. There's like a parallel society within Switzerland. And this is for me always the issue. And of course, these maybe development goals are exactly designed to ensure this freedom for these multinational companies. And we have this, of course, there are some players inside the game who are doing now from China in Africa and so on. But there is another so-called side effect. And today we have in Switzerland, for example, the only issue is how to protect the society from this non-desired people. I mean, if we have some high skill, okay, you are welcome. But as soon as you are not in this game, multinational companies scheme, you are not like part of this so-called.
You're not welcome.
Yeah, I mean de facto, yeah, you are not welcome. Yeah.
I think there are things that are very important from this discussion. We see an increasing role of the private sector in policy making, and the concept of development itself. You were talking about the freedom of international companies that is perfectly in line with current development goals as they are stated. And you were mentioning how the private sector has also an impact on migration by selecting or filtering certain categories of migrants. And also how in this context of development, as we know it, the profit also takes these companies to be free to delocalize to countries where they can find advantages. So apparently from your conclusions, we can say that the private sector has a very important role in shaping development today and in shaping the way in which development goals are conceived that are in line with these private sector objectives as well.
I want to talk about political pressure because that's also one of the major issues in migration. It influences the policies greatly. The government would not want to go into politics that will raise protests from the public. And also, we also have the oppositions, which is also ready to use such opportunity to also gain points. So all these things also influence the direction the government will want to take.
So thank you very much, because that's another important factor. We see political pressure and public opinion and policy making influencing one another. As you were saying, public opinion can shape how policies are formulated, and at the same time, policies can influence the public opinion, or can instrumentalize, or policy processes can instrumentalize certain issues such as migration to shape public opinion and so on. So I think this two-way relationship is also important to highlight.
If they can transfer the skills back home, while we create our foundation.
Do you have a database of qualified doctors in the next village that we can see if they can help us from your ministry now? Maybe you have a database of qualified doctors or nurses in the nearby bigger village that we can employ. For the meantime, we can volunteer to be coming before the foundation you plan to set up will now be operational.
At the moment, we don't have that.
Okay,
But I'm going to contact the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to know if our children over there, if they have the number of people or they have qualified medical personnel over there who can come down and help us to run it.
Monsieur le
As the
Nagent
village mayor,
Derek, you are SDC.
no, this is French agency for.
No, this is our mayor. This is our local chief.
So you're sitting on the wrong seat.
You are French. You are the. No. Okay, go to your seat.
No, I'm the mayor.
Oh, you will start. You will lose.
You already had the mayor welcoming people to it. I've already welcomed people.
No, this man, he has to play the foreign agency like SDC.
He's the mayor, he's on the seat of the mayor.
Oh, the mayor, so.
You're sitting wrong, so just go to your seat. Let's continue.
Nonsense, just move and let's.
But I'm not prepared for this.
Well,
Okay, I'll still say what I want to say.
You just have to listen to our argument and approve.
Okay,
You are
first
a doctor. You are a man man.
Who's the French agency?
This is this.
Okay, as the
French
Agency for Development, we have assisted in several projects in other low-income communities, not only here in Begado. And we have learned also over the years from other activities in community participatory projects like this. And I'm going to give you some tips. Probably if you're ready to clear the line, maybe we can work together. One, the clinic has been built almost 80% completed, and there's still a little bit to be done to get it completed. I would want to suggest that for the remaining completion, if we can transform the clinic from an electrically run clinic to a solar panel electricity device, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but the French Development Agency are ready to contribute some quota. If your children could still contribute something more, we could guarantee from our own development side to contribute 50% to get this clinic completed. And on the skill acquisition, in order to make sure there's a sustainable skills transferable, we will want to encourage you to invite some of your children who are already qualified to come for holidays. While they're on holidays, they transfer their skills, give a training either as nursing sisters, as technicians in the hospital, doctors who are ready to come here for holiday. You set up the environment in such a way that there will be holiday and at the same time be imparting knowledge while on holiday.
I have a
this
question.
is a
Let me, sorry. My people, you know, for years, people have been coming to this my village, especially this Ministry of Health. They promised a lot of things, but we never saw anything. You know, my people had to trek miles and miles for fever. You know? But what I am saying now is, are you sure of what you are saying? That you are going to help? Because it took our children pain. They were tired of the suffering of our people here. And they said they will build a hospital for us. And they built this beautiful thing. But unfortunately, we don't paid. So, Oga from French agency, you are talking of 50%. You will bring 50%.
We won't give the money, but we will make sure that we contribute match funding.
Match funding?
Yes.
That means you have to work with those in the diaspora.
Come to my grammar. What is match funding?
He said he's going to support us, Your Royal Highness, with as much as he could in his capacity. It could be in material. He just mentioned solar, but I want to let him to understand that the building itself cannot survive on a solar on its own, because we have some medical equipment that the capacity is not yet in the solar technology. So which means we need a power generator, at least two, 25 kilowatts to support the solar panels. Otherwise, those functions, they're not going to work. So if your institution can help us, you are the minister, you are the agency for development, to see how you can work with the community, with the school in France, in the university. If you can have a kind of a special program that you are sending university students, medical students to our village to be doing some kind of educational medical research or training in our own town, then they can help us to train our local staffs.
That is possible, but even if the skills are transferred, the sustainability of keeping the staff paid, that they don't later migrate from here to Europe, is another problem. And you envisage a way to halt this?
This is why we have been doing stuff.
So in that case, what I'm promising is that as soon as those things get to us, we are going to take good care of it.
How?
And the strategy to put that into place, you know.
So think always in the policy making process.
Yes,
put people at the center, at the
yes.
heart of the process.
Yes.
Please.
The policy has, people have to be, and not you yourself. That's what I mean, that the people there, they have to.
Only representative, and this calls for spoilers. Spoilers. Take for instance, when the village chief was there negotiating on behalf of her people, he or she, is only one. There's actually other interest in the community that will not be represented. And this interest could be, at the long run, the spoilers. Probably a generator is brought, they vandalize the generator because he or she is selling generator around. Just always be conscious of spoilers in negotiations.
We discussed a lot of very interesting things, and if I am to contribute to only one point that is not already there, it is the discussion that we had on the challenges and opportunities of this platform itself. And I think it's an interesting document for the members, both the members and the coordinators of the platform, to decide and to implement the future activities of the platform.
Yeah, of course, for me also this discussion on the platform was very interesting, but basically also what Fabiana said, that it's not, you have to develop a political vision. It's not something which is there, right? And I think we are not yet in that stage, and of course, what I also realize, it needs a lot of sharing just to learn what people know, right? Just exactly, for example, I did not know what you're doing in Schaffhausen, right? I don't. Yeah. So we need some time to learn more about each other. And this learning, to this confidence building, has to go alongside with the political training, or training in the sense of political understanding of why we're here, right? And this is, I think that's a challenge which I realize more and more is different if you have kind of migrants or this platform, because it's not a technical platform like a water platform or don't know, a health platform where you have an expertise and the international standard and you like to just produce quality, but it's more a platform where things are developed on the go. And orientation is given through active interaction. And so it's not easy to hook people to these interactions while they have their own businesses going on. And so the understanding of what is a short-term vision, what is a long-term vision is challenged. So I've learned also, most I've learned through that paper on challenging and opportunities. On the other side, I think, and there I agree, I've also learned to differentiate international, national and local level. Is of course always important. On the other side, my experience is a bit, we have members which work internationally. We have national members that work locally. Right? So it's a kind of theoretical thing. And it's still people that are doing this interaction, they have their influence. You don't know before you know them where their influence is. Right? And their influence can be on all levels. So I realize we need a person-focused orientation in the platform, so to build on personal capacities and knowledge rather than to have theoretical concepts of these different levels, right? We're a national platform, but it's built by persons. We have she's in the community parliament, and we have Celeste, he's in the Commission of Migration. There's so many different links which you get in all layers.
If I might summarize. So I am pleased to have completed now the 3 modules that compose the training on migration and development. I think the objective of the training was to provide a general understanding on migration and development issues, but also and principally to reflect on the role of the civil society in the process of building policies that are more complementary and more coherent when we talk about the effects of migration on sectoral policies or sectoral objectives, and vice versa, the impacts of sectoral policies on migration. And I feel that the 3 modules really provided the opportunity to civil society to reflect on their own role throughout this process when we discussed the links between migration and development, when we discussed the engagement of diaspora actors in development processes, and today when we discussed also how to get involved in policy formulation processes. I am very pleased with the discussions also about the future programming of the Swiss Civil Society Platform on Migration and Development, which we had the opportunity to resume today, and I hope that the recommendations and the points of action that came out from this training are taken into consideration for the future of the platform.
Well, if I need to conclude, I would say that these different modules, these trainings were a success, and the evaluations of the participants also showed that they found it very useful. I mean, when we started discussing about the idea of making these training modules on the migration and development nexus, on its implications, and on several dimensions of it, like the contribution of diaspora to development, but also the questions of how do we or can we support the integration of migration into policies, development policies and sectoral policies. The idea was really to allow the members to develop a common understanding of the nexus, a common language on the nexus, and in this respect we think that the objectives were achieved. But beyond conceptual discussions or understanding, we also were very happy to see that there were some very concrete discussions within these trainings. For instance, when speaking about today's training and the questions of how do you integrate migration into sectoral policies such as skills development policies or health policies. It led to very concrete discussions, not only from a perspective of the countries of destinations, but also, as we saw in the case of Beggedo, from the perspective of the countries of origin. And perhaps one not expected outcome of all these trainings is something rather intuitive, but something we saw on the occasion of every trainings was the fact that it really allowed all the members to network with one another, to get to know one another, to get to know what the others are doing on the migration and development nexus. And in this respect, this socialization process of the platform is also very much important and very much valued as a result of these trainings.